think you ought to know. That Men's Radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's Men's Radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's Radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
Greetings and salutations. I have to say that of course, is our theme tune, and that was by Ray Gelato. Apparently, I wrote the words, which I'd completely forgotten. But that was Ray Gelato, who absolutely stormed through 2 shows yesterday at Pizza Express at Dean Street, and he's on again tonight.
And he also stormed through lunch on Saturday when we all saw one another.
Oh yes, you were there, weren't you?
I was.
You came over for lunch.
It's amazing, really. I have the most uncanny ability when uninvited somewhere. I just rock up and hope for the best.
Because you've got a convertible car, do you just put the roof down and smell whatever you think might be nice that you can eat as a pescatarian pain in the ass, and then boom, you just turn up? I think that's basically your modus operandi.
Yes, that's kind of the way it works.
Let's dash straight up to Edinburgh. Veronica Curran, good morning, gents, and Barry J. Allen. Barry J. Allen.
For those of you who haven't got a clue why we play that, Russ Kane.
Because Barry Allen is the name of The Flash. I don't mean the bloke who's up in Huddersfield County Court. I mean The Flash, the comic. Dave Sleet. He of the big, he is the grand fromage of psychological things. Greetings, one and all. And Ramsey Wymersalem. Morning, gents. Goody gumdrops. I'm sure he wants to be reminded of that. Good afternoon, one and all, from sunny East Croydon.
To the surname of a part that our guest on stage show used to play. So there's something for you.
Goody, yeah. Paul Claridge. Paul, I'm sorry, this is a non sequitur. Good afternoon from sunny East Croydon. You got East Croydon and the words good afternoon. It's never going to fly, boy. It's never going to fly. Try this week not to get beaten up by Eastern European drug gangs. Go on, make it an exceptional week.
In general, to be honest, we don't really care where they come from. There's no discrimination.
We don't like them. Let's dash across. We've gone to Edinburgh. We've gone to London. Now we're dashing across to the south of Spain. Buenos dias. Can I have my Spanish flea intro? No, because we've got a big guest. Big guest.
I'm pleased you
coming
said
up. Just because you've started off from Leeds, come to Spain. Go on, what?
I'm pleased you said no, because I don't have the Spanish flea lined up. I'm terribly sorry.
No. And the other thing is, what's he ever done for us?
Boosting our numbers, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, we love him. This is your mother's rocked up. Oh, good. You get this on Radio 4. John Humphreys, your mother's just here. Linda Dave, hi, guys.
I'm sure. Good Lord.
Is your father feeling better very quickly? Is he all right?
Not 100% yet, but we hopefully. But thank you for can I just say, before you introduce guest, I'm very excited. Something I managed to get my hands on today. I'm very pleased.
Was it your neighbour? She looks saucy.
No. You all appreciate this because, of course, she came on this very program to talk about it. Look, I've got my copy of Denise Welsh's Unwelcome Visitor. Isn't that nice?
I love that book. It's a great book. Denise Welsh is very, very brave, and it's a great way to segue into our very, very special guest. I'm an unashamed fan. If anyone who knows me knows I don't like. I go, yeah, okay. Do you want to meet someone? Not really. No, it doesn't really do it. I have loved this guy like forever. Who
is it, Russ? Can you give me a clue?
No, because then you'd be crossing the thin blue line.
Oh dear!
This is just incredible. I mean, we can keep this going forever. I'll tell you what, Phil. One thing no one would ever describe you as.
Absolutely not.
Phil, you're going to fuck up. You're going to completely mess up my introduction here. Phil, one thing no one could ever describe you as is absolutely fabulous. I can keep going all day. He is actor extraordinaire, Mr.
He's.
James
Can I just say, you missed out one more. He's my hero. See what I did there?
No. Okay, James DREYFUS, ladies and gentlemen, is in the house.
for that introduction.
There is a reason why most introductions are not like that. But anyway, we're very grateful.
Because, James, most introductions are of course, professional, which, we're not going to pretend to be honest with you.
No, that was one of the best I've ever heard. So
you're very kind. You lie consummately, and we're impressed. And remind me, James, never to play poker with you, because that would be a complete disaster.
Yeah,
I mentioned, you would. By the way, and before we get on to the serious stuff, I've got Mark J. W. Thomas, who's a major producer, says fantastic actor. Love all he's done. No, Ramsey, he's not in the thin blue room. It's a joke. See, on your location. Gee, God. Oh my God. Mary G. Good morning from Kentucky. Kentucky. Wowza. Very interested in today's program. Oh, Mary, we can soon disavow you of that, but welcome from Kentucky. And oh God, she's arrived. She's arrived.
Fried chicken on Holloway Road. She didn't quite finish the sentence. Anyway.
It's not Kentucky Fried Chicken, you dick. It's probably Kentucky in America. And my cousin's turn. Right, James. I cannot walk past a hairdresser's to this day when it was the wedding scene in Ab Fab, and you're there and you're going, Nicky Clark, Nicky Clark, Nicky Clark, Nicky Clark. I cannot. It just makes me laugh every time I walk past the hairdressers.
Yeah, I was very lucky to be involved in that. That was a wild couple of days, I'll tell you.
Oh, I bet it was.
Paul, do you ever get backed off the way that people just sort of were obviously so utterly in love with any character that you've ever played that we've just demonstrated it now with our rather horrific introduction to you, that sort of that people have so much love for what you've done that they're just prepared to keep referring to it over and over again. Do you ever get sick of it?
No, not really. Because I did sort of in the first 5 years afterwards, when you think, oh God, why. But actually now, when I look back, and I'm actually sort of much more proud than I think I ever was before of a lot of it, because I don't know, maybe because of the dearth of comedies at the moment.
We're going to get onto that.
I sort of am quite proud of it all, really.
Actually, do you know what? Let's dive into that, because there is so much I want to discuss with you, as does Phil. Comedy, many people are saying, has almost been banned. We're lucky here. We push it to the limit. I don't care. And that's what I want to do. We're never rude. We're not offensive, but we do push it. And deliberately so. How do you feel about that, James?
About what's in what particularly?
It's been banned that you've got to be so careful if you don't cause offence, which leads on to the next subject.
I cannot stand it. I think it's going to be the death of so much. I watched a very interesting interview this morning with a Lib Dem councillor up in Sheffield, referring to the Chubby Brown.
Oh, Roy Chubby Brown. Yeah.
Roy Chubby Brown case. Now, whatever you think of his particular sense of humour or whatever, the fact of the matter is this councillor was saying, and I agreed with him, saying, where does this end? Where the next things that we don't like, are we talking about going into libraries and purging the libraries? And, where does this end? And it's part of, I think it's part of a comedian's job. Okay, not to be outwardly, and horrifically racist like Bernard Manning and things, but it is a comedian's job to be offensive in some ways.
It's a comedian's job to provoke.
It's a comedian's job to stir the imagination, isn't it? So you would like to think that a comedian would look at a scenario or a situation in life where they just maybe put a bit of a twist on it and try and bring out a different side to it. But what is wrong with that?
Yes, look, he's not a sort of a pariah. It wasn't that long ago that Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton had him as a guest on, I think it was Inside Number 9 or one of their shows, because they've been long-time fans of his. So, that was a couple of years ago. And I just think it's all going in a very, very dangerous direction, and this treading on eggshells the entire time. I don't know. It's going to backfire horribly one day, and pretty soon, I think.
I hope so. I do hope so. And the thing about it is, James, if you just take Roy Chubby Brown as an example, right? And I watched an interview with him. Bloke called Alex Belfield did an interview with him yesterday. He sold out the theatre where he is. He's got banned from one town, the other town, he's sold out. That is a people's choice. You have the choice. No one's putting a gun to your head and say you've got to sit through a 2-hour Roy Chubby Brown show. It's not my cup of tea. I mean, I wouldn't go. And I've watched his stuff. It's not my cup of tea. But no. But hundreds and hundreds of people rocked up. The show was sold out. They like it. They have the right to go and see what the hell they want without a counsellor saying, no, we will decide for you.
Yeah, and who are these arbiters of who we should see or who we should not see? I mean, who are they? Who are these people? I mean, nobody voted them to become our moral compass. Nobody. They just want them to keep the buses going and keep the streets safe, etc., etc. I mean, I think it's this in particular will backfire, as I'm already hearing things that it is.
You see, it's interesting. Are you familiar with somebody called? There's another person that I've been following, during all this lockdown, called Andrew Lawrence. I don't know Andrew. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him.
Yes.
No, he's very clever. His stuff is very clever, and he did something that was not smart. I can't really defend what he did. I thought it was a dumb thing to do for someone who's clearly very intelligent. It was a stupid tweet. And then he dug himself in a deeper hole. But he instantly, as you will have known, James, and Phil and I discussed this in previous shows, he got banned from his tour was cancelled because every single venue immediately said, we can't have him.
I know. But this is the cancer of social media, isn't it? Everyone screams into the void, and it only takes one person. I've noticed, it takes one person to, with 3 followers to make a complaint to a train company about how they weren't included in the announcement, and the entire train company will fold over backwards. You just think, what happened to the word? So get over it.
Get over yourself.
It's interesting. Just now, when does this all end? Well, I have a very simple theory. I don't think that the individuals who are trying to push this agenda are going to know the limits. But where I believe the limit will lie is when everyone else, and it is, I believe, the vast majority of people turn around and they say, do you know what? Sorry, this is a step too far. Enough already. And as you say, they turn around and they say, get over it. And that only time it's going to change. I wholeheartedly believe that.
See, look at this. This is from Dave Sleet. This is from Dave Sleet, James, who heads up a very big psychological organization called ANA. Banning Frankie Go to Hollywood. I think it was Mike Reed, I think, who said, we can't play that. And he decided, I've known Mike for years. He's a perfectly nice man. Banning Frankie Go is a perfect example of why cancel culture doesn't work, because if he hadn't made such a hoo-ha, it may have just been a pop song. Suddenly it became like a big cause célèbre, and everybody bought the song because they were told they couldn't buy the song.
Well, it's normal human. It's normal human reaction, isn't it? You're told not to do something, and what do a lot of people want to do? I'm very much like this. You tell me to stand up, I'll sit down. It's very much that thing of, you tell me I'm not going to do it, I'll do it. Especially in England, you find people will just dig their heels in, and they'll say, I won't be told by you, I won't be told by anybody how to live my life and what to do. And we're getting, and what it does is actually highlight, like that brilliant tweet about Frankie Goes to Hollywood. All it does is highlight something that would have just gone unnoticed.
Into everyone's life, a little rain must fall. Could you just say, Timmy, you're a silly bitch. I will pay you any charity you like. Timmy, you silly bitch. That's what he is. Russ Kane's stand-up should be definitely looked at and cancelled. I said. He's a very funny boy. He is very funny.
There is actually...
Is that Timmy who does those videos?
Yes,
oh,
he is.
I'm due to meet up with him at some point very soon.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
We wish you all the best of luck with that. Can I just suggest? I know that sort of there is a more serious reason why this subject keeps coming up time and time again on this program, because I think anyone who just tunes in will be forgiven for thinking, hang on a second, this is about mental health and well-being. So why are you talking about something that's just so trivial as comedy, or potentially something as serious or topical as cancel culture? But I believe that actually it has a deep psychological impact on everyday people, because I believe wholeheartedly the majority of people don't think in that way. It kind of goes against the grain. And when you have something that is so out of your control, like being told, well, you can't enjoy your favorite program because if you do, you're a racist, what that actually does is it has a deep impact on one's state of mind, almost to the point of actually sort of making them feel guilty unnecessarily, and actually sort of quite aggravated unnecessarily as well. Yeah. Do you find the similar sort of thing with you, with anything that winds you up to that degree?
Anything that winds me up, like what? So much winds me up. So much winds me up.
No, but say for example that there is an example of cancel culture. Okay, someone has turned around and said you absolutely can't like that particular comedian because whatever reason, there's a person who sort of could snap in half, might not like it, and it's that kind of example I'm talking about, whether or not that's the kind of thing that sort of affects you in a similar way, where you get aggravated because it's beyond control, but it's also someone telling you how to think and feel.
Yes, I think that's the most aggravating thing of it. And having lived through a period, remembering television very clearly from the 70s and from the 80s, where people were very much, allowed to make up their own minds, and often comedy was very much misinterpreted. I mean, for example, you have the whole Warren Mitchell. Till Death Us Do Part. You had the group that understood that it was Johnny Spate writing, attacking racism. He was making the point that this man is not a hero. This man is a bigot. But of course, it was misunderstood by a lot of people as, here's Alf, our great hero. And Johnny Spate and Warren Mitchell both said, well, we can't control this. We put the program out. People have to think for themselves. But it's being misinterpreted in a huge way.
It's interesting. Years ago, but obviously before he passed untimely, Vince Powell, who wrote so much stuff, Coronation Street, tons of material, and he wrote Love Thy Neighbor, which of course is held up as the worst racist piece of garbage in the world. And it was just the two of us at lunch. I wanted to meet him, and somebody affected the meeting. We met down at, I think, Pinewood Studios. And he was saying to me, look, Russ, I'm making the same point as Johnny Spate, in that if you look at the show, that Rudolph Walker and his wife are the hero and heroine. They're great looking, they're clever, and they win every time. And the ridiculous, stupid neighbor, who is a biased idiot bigot, is shown up to be the buffoon. But people just didn't see that, and that's why he got into sort of even then trouble. It's
but you see, now you can't even get to that. You can't even get it seen. You can't even test these things, because it won't get past the 187 committees it's got to go through before being allowed anywhere on television. So
let me extend this.
You worked with Rudolph Walker on Thin Blue Line. Is he? Sorry, I was going to divulge me for a second. Is he as terrific as he comes across?
He's more terrific than he comes across. A genuinely hilarious man.
Oh, and nice.
And a lovely man too. We spent a long time sitting next door to each other on our desks, and I've got some very funny private pictures of him fooling around in between takes, which I'll blackmail him with one day.
Excellent.
The impression of the Elephant Man, though.
I just remember that.
let me extend this a little bit, James, because it's not a massive leap from all of this cancel culture to what goes on social media. And I'm gonna lay my cards out here, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you and with everybody watching and listening around the world, including Kentucky and Spain and New York, as it happens. Is this when you've been getting into all of this trolling? I have no idea. Genuinely, I'm not trying to be defensive. I don't understand what they're having such a go at, but they seem, and I follow you religiously, they seem to be furious, but I'm not understanding what it is they're so furious about. Or am I being very thick?
No, I don't understand what they're furious about either, to be honest.
But they're having such a pop at you, aren't they? It's vicious.
Well, I think, number one, it's stepping into the debate that J.K. Rowling stepped into. It's like stepping on a mine shot. You've only got to mention a word and you're automatically in it. And once you've said it, you're in it for life. But, as I keep saying to people, where's your proof about this accusation? Where's your proof about that accusation? They never can provide any because there isn't any. Unfortunately, the social media has become, there's a lot of great people on social media, and I've got some wonderful followers and people I follow back, and I love interacting with the people because it makes me think I'm not going mad. And there's another section of social media that are literally the lowest of the low. They would celebrate if they heard your mother had died that day, they would make a video celebrating it. That's how sick some of these people are. So the only time I get involved in real spats is when someone is spreading malicious lies about it, and I always go back to say, read what I've said, read what I've written in context, and stop picking headlines from Pink News or rubbish like that. And actually read what I've said. But then people have been saying that about J.K. Rowling forever. Read what she said.
You see, that confused me as well, and I don't want to take it away from you. I read that book, and I was expecting it to go down a certain path. And having read the book, and I've read all those Cormorant Strike books, I didn't understand. I genuinely did not understand the fuss at all, because it didn't, to me, feature in the storyline or the plot. Not really. It was a tiny little aside.
It was a paragraph about her wearing a cardigan. But you see, this is the whole thing. A lie will go around the world while the truth is still doing its boots up. It only takes a couple of malicious people to start spreading rubbish like that. And don't forget, most people are not interested in doing the research for themselves. They'll hear it from a friend. They'll say, oh, I've heard this, I've heard that. 14 million plus followers she's got. She's a successful independent woman. Of course, they're going to trounce her. But you're not dealing with rational people here. You're just not dealing with rational. You're dealing with people who'll say the most outrageous things on a keyboard, and yet you get them in front of anyone, they'd run a mile.
Well, they would. They absolutely would. I just don't understand how we've got to this place. What I wanted to ask you as well, when I've watched what's going on, and I stay clear of it because whatever I say would be either misconstrued, and I really don't want to get embroiled in something I don't understand.
Yeah.
How do you mentally say, screw them, I'm not letting them ruin my day, ruin my life?
Well, now I am taking a lot more time off, because just of the situation of the world at the moment, there seems nothing positive going on. Every day brings another disaster. Every single day, some new horror is happening, and I'm gonna have to pull away from social media a bit, because it sucks you in. And I had an very interesting conversation when I was working in Canada recently with a lady whose brother works for Apple phones, and it's a known fact over there that all these young guys and girls who make these phones don't let their children anywhere near them. So you think,
tell us, I wonder.
isn't that interesting? You know, they don't let them anywhere near them. They know what monster they've created. It's a new form of crack.
Well, you know,
well, we've had, yes.
There is this. There's a documentary on, and not that I'm necessarily getting anything out of it to promote it, but I just think it's essential because we've spoken about it a few times on this program. But there is a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, and what that does, it unpicks in great details the different features on social media and why they were created and why they are so addictive, and how it actually chemically alters our brain as we use it. It is terrifying, but essential, and I'd suggest watch it because, frankly, I think anyone
I will
not use it again.
It's James. It's one of the most extraordinary documentaries I have ever seen in my life.
I think I've got to prepare myself before I sit down because I can just see myself getting furious. I mean, I got furious when Twitter changed the likes to a series of hearts that went fluttering.
Yes.
And you know that's just them going, I tell you what, if we do that, that'll get the dopamine levels, you know, a little bit raised, and it'll give people more of a thrill. And you know, it's so transparent, and yet we all use it because it's the only way to communicate now, you know.
That's true. You see, we're stuck. Phil and I are stuck because I have to, you know, I do most of the a lot of the social media for men's radio and women's radio. I have to do it because that's how we live and breathe. Do I like doing it? No. Do I want to be hanging around? Sometimes I feel I've got to take a shower. Honestly, I glance at stuff I shouldn't be glancing at on Twitter, for example. I think I've just swum through a sewer here. What the hell's wrong with these people? I mean, they're just really not. In that documentary that Phil just so correctly mentioned, The Social Dilemma, they interview. There's so many things come out of it. One, everyone they interview is so intelligent. They are, as they used to say with Enron, the smartest guys in the room. But B, they interviewed the actual bloke who invented likes. He invented likes on. That was his invention, and he said, "I had no idea that this was going to come out of something which I thought would be a nice thing. You know, here's a picture of my dog, you know, like kind of you and I do with pictures of our pet. That's the thing. It's what it is. I just find it absolutely extraordinary.
But it's the same, isn't it? It's like Ian Berners, you know, the guy who invented
Sir Berners Lee.
Berners-Lee, yes, you know, saying, God, I look at it now and I think if I could go back, I'd burn it all down. You know, it's always the same. You know, Einstein's splitting the atom. Oops, we get the atom bomb. It always seems to go. You know, everything is created with good intention, but I suppose it's like letting something get too powerful for too long, isn't it? It's why you know, prime ministers should be changed regularly, and why you know, people in charge should be changed regularly because it's corrupt.
I've always said I think any politician should have a maximum of 20 years in Parliament. That's it. Because if they changed at the end of the 20-year span, then they'd have limited time to do what they want to do and how they want to change whatever they want to change to make it happen. And to stop it all off, they wouldn't be given carte blanche to take, well, the proverbial, frankly.
Yeah, quite.
It's the most polite way I can put it. But, you know, I was just wondering, sort of, if you think about sort of the difference, and it's really not that long ago. I mean, I'm sort of thinking about sort of from an industry point of view. How many years ago when one was trying to book guests, the way that Russ managed to get in touch with you to appear on this program was obviously, I assume it was through social media. Everyone now is so over-connected, for want of a better word, through social media. If you think of sort of back in the day, an interview like this one, to be organized, at best we'd have to try and hunt down your agent and book you through that. Never would you be able to go direct to a person. Do you think that social media makes everyone too exposed?
Yes, but it's a sort of yes, I do, but it's a voluntary thing as well, but it's also a necessary thing because I've heard in my industry. I mean, I don't know what the hell goes on with the young people with what they get told to put in their bios and everything. But apparently you must be on social media, but you must do it a certain way. You hire people to say the right things for you. You like the right tweets. And if you're not on social media, that's another problem, because then people think you just don't exist. So, I don't know how these kids just leaving. I don't know how they deal with it all. I mean, I guess you just hire someone who does it for you. Maybe I should do that. Maybe that would be a better idea.
It's a bizarre thing. And thank you for being so candid about it, because sometimes Phil and I, we'll have a chat on the phone or whatever, and I think, is it me? Am I just going completely round the bend here, or some of these people bonkers? I think they're just mad.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think, when I say that, I think I do think some of them are mentally ill, and somehow, I always use the phrase, empty vessels make the loudest noise. I don't know how they've controlled the agenda. Honestly, I don't.
It's true, but don't forget that social media is also a place where you can go on and you can say something as simple as "I like cats," and you'll start an argument because someone will say, "Well, you didn't mention dogs." I mean, it's that trivial, it's that trite, it's that stupid. Is that someone will always want an argument? Someone will always, be a pedant. God, I've just seen Timmy's thing. Someone will always be a pedant, I mean, it really is the sandpit. It really is the dirty sandpit on a Thursday afternoon, where all the kids go and play in the mud. I mean, it really is. If you don't want to get sand in your pants and you don't want to get dirty, don't play in the sandpit. It's very simple.
Now, one of the things you've been very open about, and was one of the main reasons that I reached out, was talking about depression. And I think it was last week or the week before, you had a bad bout, and you were incredibly. A load of people wrote stuff of support, which I know when you're in there, it's hard to process. But you were very, very kind, and you thanked everybody, because I think it gave you. See, this is the reverse of social media. It let you know that you were much loved, which you are. And also that people understood, in a time when no one seems to understand anything, people understood that you were struggling. Why did you decide? I'm a fellow traveller, by the way. So why did you decide to be so open about it?
I was feeling blue, and there was no one in the flat to talk to. And I just sort of wrote how I felt, and then I thought, God, and then I had a little bit of stuff at the end, just saying, look, I just want other people to know. I'm just putting it out here. I don't want to hear any messages back. And you're not alone, and I'm not alone. It made me feel better. So I did it for sort of entirely selfish reasons, just to purge myself a bit. And there were so many lovely messages back. But it has been a particularly severe, and I got so many messages back from people who are saying, I'm going through the same thing. And I know it sounds awful, because you don't want another person to live in misery or to suffer or to feel an emptiness inside. But it does make you feel better, because you think, well, I'm not alone. People can relate to this. So I really just wrote it to sort of exercise it a bit. That was the only reason.
I totally get that. Have you, has depression been an issue with you for all your life, or in later years?
Yes, apparently, yes. My mother tells me that I was, rather a sort of cynically depressed child. But it really kicked in when I was doing the Thin Blue Line, and I was waking up every morning at 5:30 for no reason, in tears. Not tears of sadness, not tears of joy. They were empty tears. They were just, they were empty, apathetic tears. And I didn't understand why. So, and then I went and I was diagnosed at age, I don't know, 23, 24.
Was that, so you say the empty tears something that's still present themselves now, or was that literally just in those days? I suppose what I'm trying to work out is what does, you described it as feeling blue, but what does that feeling blue look like to you? How does it manifest? How do you know
it manifests itself. It's not oh, I feel bad today. It's not feeling, oh, I'm just depressed today. It's really much more of a feeling of not being able to connect with those around you, being antisocial, going into yourself, trying to fill. It's like a hole in your stomach that you're constantly trying to feed, but it eats you quickly. So you basically sort of you hermitize yourself. You close, you put up the barriers, because the last thing you want to do when you're feeling like this is to talk to anybody. I mean, that's the conundrum here. People say reach out and talk, but the last thing you want to do is communicate. That's what true depression is.
You see, if you haven't, go on, Phil.
I've never been officially ever diagnosed with depression, but all I know is that sort of if I have a really sort of bad day where I, like you say, you don't want to sort of necessarily communicate with us, I feel as though my mind has shut its eyes. So physically my eyes are open, but it's like my mind has, as if nothing else exists, just go away. It's that sort of business.
You mean you're able to do that?
No. Well, no, but I don't even think that that's a good thing. It's almost like I'm in standby mode, if you will.
Right. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
See, what's really What's really interesting, of course, if you haven't been there, people might be thinking, wait a minute. He's in this huge hit show. It's written by Ben Elton. Everybody's loving it. What's he depressed about? It's not that at all, is it? You have no control when this the black dog, as Churchill called it, we've had Denise Welsh as a guest 3 times on the show. She's very open. And I remember she told Phil and I this thing, she was sitting in the car with her sister. She was going up to a nice event. Everything was great. And suddenly, boom, out of nowhere, just sitting in the bang. And she just oh my God. Yeah, just hit her out of nowhere.
I can relate, because it's often associated with anxiety as well, because one drives the other. And you get this empty feeling, and that makes you anxious, because you think, oh God, how long is this going to happen? How long am I going to sit here feeling like this? How far am I going to retreat? So these two ball bearings chase each other in a hoop, and you can solve it, I suppose, by taking a Valium or easing the anxiety, but you can't take away you can't get the black dog to move off your shoes, put it like that.
No. And the other thing is, people always think, oh, well, you're depressed about X, Y, or Z. In other words, you're depressed about something very specific, but it's not. It's not like you're sitting there going, oh my God, you can't attach. It would be easier if you could attach it to something concrete.
Absolutely.
You can't.
If I could say, oh, well, I didn't get a job today and I'm feeling depressed about it, that's not depression. That's just,
you're pissed off, or you're cheesed off, or you're disappointed. All of those are very different emotions. They're different emotions.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell when I wake up in the morning, usually if it's going to be a good day or a bad day. I'm not saying it's bad all the time. Some days it's absolutely fine. Very rarely is it sort of great.
Let me read this from Leslie. Let me read this from Leslie. James DREYFUS has just described how I feel when my black dog enters. Thank you, James, for putting how it feels into words. Thank goodness the regular, very low dose of medication I take mostly keeps it at bay. That's right. So it helps. Beg your pardon. It helps the why isn't this not going away? There's serotonin.
Another from Timmy here. So from Timmy, who you are about to speak to imminently. So you're good luck with that. Timmy said, I was diagnosed in my early 20s too. I'm on antidepressants for life. Good Lord, Timmy, I didn't know that. And
I did.
and haven't had an episode for 8 years, but the thought of going back into that place is the worst thought in my life. Also, like James, it is the hardest thing to talk about to people about it when you're in that place. It can attack you when you're in your happiest place, and it hits you out of the blue.
Totally.
That's
Totally. Tim is absolutely right.
And also, I would say to the people, because I've heard this very often of people saying, "Oh gosh, but that means antidepressants for life." So you say, well, yes, it does, but that's nothing to worry yourself for. You get the medication level that's right for you, and it might take a while to get it right, but once you've got it right, stay on it, because what causes a lot of depression is the constant fiddling and coming off too soon and get back on too soon. That's no good, except the fact that you'll be on a dose for life. I've been on a dose since I was 23. I'm 52 now, and I found eventually the right dose. It took a while, but it's just something that you do. It's like if you have a reflux that you have to take for the rest of your life, a pill that you take every day. It's I wouldn't muck about, and I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of to say, yes, I take antidepressants
first of all,
to
there's
keep me in a stable place.
Nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not it's a sign that you want to do something to improve your state of mind. And secondly, I think the great myth is, oh, you're walking around like a zombie. No. The Americans, of course, kept calling about the Prozac generation and all the Prozac housewives in LA and all that sort of stuff. That's a totally different thing.
Yes, those tend to be antipsychotics, which are chlorpromazine. Those turn you into a zombie. They made a film, Shutter Island, was all about it. That particular pill but that's not an antidepressant. That's not an antidepressant. So it doesn't make you into a zombie. Yes, it does slightly take away your ability to feel, but it's only very slightly. But it has to be acknowledged that it does do that. But otherwise,
it's a tiny price to pay.
But it's a very small price to pay for getting through day-to-day life. Yeah.
It is. It's a weird thing though, because there you are having terrible attacks at 5:30 in the morning, and then doing brilliant comedy. And I'm not just saying that because you're a guest. It was hilarious, and you were in tip-top form. When I was at my worst, I won all my comedy writing awards. I mean, I can't explain it. I won 15 international awards, including the gold medal in the New York Film and Television Festival. And it's like, and I was, frankly, personally, I was a wreck. Professionally, I was absolutely crushing it. Yeah, I couldn't explain. I couldn't explain that.
I think if you read about, very successful, especially people who deal in comedy, I think that's quite a routine thing to happen. Is you suffer to make things funny. A lot of people do. Some don't, obviously, but I think a lot of the comedy creative press. That's why you find a lot of genuinely funny people are really quite miserable. I mean, there's that brilliantly famous clip of Jerry Lewis being interviewed by someone who's really pissed him off, and it's the most painful. It's the most painful 10 minutes you'll ever watch in your life. But I mean, that's probably who he really is.
If you've never seen it, I don't know if you've seen it, Phil. It's a youngish guy goes in to interview Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is quite senior at that point.
Literally just say yes, no, yeah,
no. That was it. And his face was like thunder, and you think, why accept the interview? Make an excuse and say, I'm sorry, I can't see you, Mr. Smith, today. They'd obviously
bugged him around at some point, and they'd done something or moved a lamp or something.
You sit there watching this thing, sweating, and just think, thank you, God, I'm not this interviewer. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Has Las Vegas changed in the last couple of years? No, it's the same. It's the same.
But isn't it funny though how even watching someone in a bad mood can actually be contagious, because that sort of makes feel quite uncomfortable. And I just think that they go to show the impact that actually viewing can have on one's state of mind, really.
Yeah, that's true. But look what it's doing to us now. I mean, joy it's giving me.
I was going to suggest that frequently, whenever anyone has been brave enough to watch Russ and I, they often say afterwards, "Well, that's put me in a bad mood."
Well, we don't. Yeah, that's it.
No, this has cheered me up immensely. So.
Good point from Paul, who's normally halfway up a ladder in East Croydon. Trust me, it's a long story. Perhaps it's really the case that we use comedy to mask our true mental state. I think we often just use comedy because we like to have fun and we like to enjoy ourselves. And it's lovely watching people laugh, and it's lovely to laugh yourself. It's very life enhancing.
And also, if you want to see, I always think that the best comedy is that real thin line between crying your eyes out and laughing your head off. And the genius that is Afterlife by Ricky Gervais is one of those very few comedies that I find myself, dying with laughter 1 minute and then just on the floor the next. And they're so close together. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, tragedy and comedy, but they really are. The flip sides of one coin. It's very, it's quite dangerous laughter because it can take you anywhere.
But that's one of the things behind this program is we've always said that sort of we know we cover very heavy subjects, deliberately so. We cover subjects that I would like to think that most other places, even now, even supposedly we live in a day and age where people are more daring about what they talk about. But we go that a little bit further, we dig a little bit deeper, deliberately so. And yet we intersperse that with a vague attempt at humor here and there. And it's because it has more emotional impact, and it actually I think it sort of balances the scales, for want of a better term. Because if you find something too hilarious and then come down at the end of that and have nothing else, there's that feeling of emptiness. Whereas if you're watching something that's too unbelievably painfully sad, it might sort of affect your mood for the rest of the day. Whereas I'd like to think that if you do just stumble across that perfect balance, somehow it's healthier. And maybe I'm imagining that. Maybe I'm making it up, but it feels healthier somehow.
Yeah. I saw there was a little thing that flashed up here that mentioned another one of my favorites, which was 1 Foot in the Grave.
Yes.
There's a classic example of a man, who's beyond middle age with his wife, and all he's trying to do is get from the start of the day to the end of the day. without that's all he's trying to do is live his life. And David Renwick, who wrote it, who I think is a genius, managed to construct these events that happen for every day. And he doesn't need to do anything at all. Hell is other people. Hell is what other people is what makes his life difficult. And all he's trying to do is water his plants. That's where it's so funny, because I think it's so ordinary. I love comedy that comes from ordinariness, because
absolutely. Do you remember when he went to the dry cleaners? He went to the dry cleaners and he got the. You'd think, how can you make 30 fabulous minutes out of the premise the guy gets something wrong from the dry cleaners?
It's extraordinary. Extraordinary writing and performing. My God.
Oh, he was absolutely terrific. It's how do you think? Kind of, just bring it around to an earlier theme. Do you think they could make "Gimme, Gimme, Gimme" now?
Well, it would be a incredibly different beast if they made it now. I dread to think what it would look like now. I think we made it just at the time where we could get away with it, and I think that all the characters in it were forgiven for their excesses in many ways, really, because it was more like a cartoon than a real life. It had that sort of Georgia Mildred look
Sorry.
The lime greens and the yellows, and it was really. Some young wag recently tried to write a sort of serious piece on why it couldn't be made today because it would be offensive and things. And I remember thinking, well, it's all very lovely and how interesting of you to waste 3 hours of your life writing that. But it is rather like critiquing a Scooby-Doo cartoon. There's nothing that you're going to get out of it apart from you either enjoy it and you revel in it and you revel in its naughtiness, or you don't like it, in which case you turn it off.
But I fear, though, that I'm sorry, but I just couldn't imagine Gimme. I know that without doubt, obviously, you and Kathy were the undisputed stars of the program, but not without Rosalind Knight. It wouldn't be right somehow.
No, absolutely. It would never be done again. And especially with Rosalind not there, because and Brian Bovell and Beth Goddard, the two neighbours who,
have they all passed?
No, they're still around. But I'm saying you could only have the whole gang back. And anyway, we're too fat and old and lazy now to do that.
But it's an interesting thing what people take offence.
I hear it now absolutely could work. Beryl has left Tom and Linda the block in her will, and you two are the landlords. Now that would be sensational. You just imagine.
Oh God, we'll see. No. Still
Isn't
too
it
late.
interesting though that people? It's got this great thing about, I call it Stalinist revisionism, and so we all used to love when it first came out. Are You Being Served? And I was lucky enough. I did panto with John Inman twice. Charming, and what a professional guy. I mean, so professional, so helpful, supportive. He was a lovely man. And everybody loves Mr. Humphreys, and yet people try and put such a kind of negative spin on it now. But you can't look at stuff that was made in the 70s, 80s, whatever it was, from 2021, 2022 perspective. It's ridiculous.
You can't do it. You cannot do it, but people do it nonetheless. It drives me mad. I remember growing up and thinking. Frank Spencer was the same. I hear today, people today would have a field day, wouldn't they, on these online mags with Frank Spencer? Now he's very gender specific, because he's very non-binary. He'd be non-binary, wouldn't he? Because he's very masculine and very feminine. And you just think, oh, do put a sock in it. I mean, it's these are characters. John Inman was a character, but what they were saying was it's because there weren't any other types of gay people being represented on screen, which is why when Michael Caine, for example, played the bisexual in California Suite, everyone suddenly went, wow, that's how you play, or that's another side of how you play, where you play it very straight. So it can be done. But now we've moved into an era where people are sort of saying, well, you should only be playing gay characters if you're gay. I mean, the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard in my life. It completely takes away the whole point of being an actor. I mean, otherwise,
isn't it? You can't say that. You see, this is the thing.
It's a way of saying that actors who are gay shouldn't be allowed to play straight people, because that's equally. Isn't it?
Yes, that's the question you have to ask, isn't it? Does that mean, or is it only work one way around?
It's not a two-way street, but it's not a two-way street.
No.
It's they had a recently historical. Was it Anne Boleyn?
Oh, it was thinking on Channel 5. Yes.
And I was thinking, okay. I'm not saying she's not a great actress. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying the actor, you have to say actor, portraying Anne Boleyn wasn't great, but historically, this is complete pants. It's a nonsense. It's this identification. I mean, take somebody like Larry Grayson, if you will, who everybody adored and you look back and you realize just how bloody good he was, and his sense of timing was was pinpoint accurate, like a laser beam. You know, it's the thing. Nobody said, "Oh, he's gay or he's homosexual." He was an entertainer, and that was it. That was sufficient. If he wanted to be a bit camp, so what?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you didn't have to make a whole song dance about it.
But we're moving in totally opposite direction at the moment. You know, I thought we were going, you know, for less labels. Once every battle had been won on the gay front, where you can get married, and you think, okay, well, what do we move on to now? Maybe concentrate on countries that have terrible gay rights records, you know, and combat it abroad. But no, we've seemed to have gone into this, let's label each other until we can have, you know, until there's no more room on us. We seem to be ever dividing. But every time you whack another label on it, you're dividing people.
This is one of the themes. This is one of the themes, James, that we deal with so much on MRS and WRS Women's Radio. It's that we seem to be being forced into positions that we don't really want to adopt. You're being forced to make choices, and this whole "you've got to pick a side." I don't particularly want to pick a side. I just want to, like Victor Meldrew, just get from A to B in my day and mind my own business. That's really what I want to do. And it all kicked off.
I didn't want to sound too Pollyanna about it, but I'd quite like it if people just remembered that we breathe air, we have blood running through our veins. That's probably all you need to know.
You're right. Yes, I think you're right. I mean, that's it. That's it. And just get on with it, because most people are really concerned. What are most people concerned about? Paying, you know, don't get in trouble with the HMRC, pay your bills, get your kids fed, get them to school. Those are what on most people's minds. It's getting from A to B. It's getting through the day. I mean, and now life is hard enough with this, you know, whole pandemic and Ethiopia and Afghanistan and all these terrible things happening around the world. People just want to, you know, live their life, and I think all these other things are such a distraction and a meaningless distraction. You know, they help nobody.
This is what Tim is saying when he's not insulting me endlessly today. Oh my God, I totally agree with James and labeling. It's just taking yourself out of one pigeonhole and into another.
Well said, Timmy.
Well, there we go.
Please don't praise him, James. Please, we'll never hear the end of it.
We'll never hear the end. You know that's going to go on his CV now. James Drake quote, well said,
said, Timmy. Oh, God, he'll live on that for the next 6 months.
You know, it's been such an unbelievable treat to have you on this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Me as well.
I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, for being so
You're
open.
welcome, both of you. Thank you so much.
And it's been a total delight. It really has. It really has.
Well, ask me back in a year or so, and then we'll do it again.
Oh, okay.
We will have to carry out. So thank you very much indeed.
Have
a well.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Terrific. What a great guy. What a great guy. I'm so thrilled we were able to get him. Wow. And it was such interest. I hate to say the word social media, but when I announced he was coming, oh, wow. You know,
I know, here's us denigrating social media, but through social media, we got him. But still, at the same time, I know that it can be used for good, but at the same time, it's important to highlight the negatives, because otherwise people could fall into the trap and use it inadvertently for the wrong reasons. So... But sadly, I think they still do anyway, regardless of whether we highlight it or not. But let's not dwell on that too much. But anyway, well, there we go.
Ooh, that was a very quick hour, wasn't it?
It was a very quick hour. Now, look, I'm not here on Wednesday. You are.
Sorry.
I know you are. You're very happily flying solo. But if you will tolerate, I will be back on Friday, but Russ will be with you from midday on Wednesday. But to those who do celebrate it, happy Jewish New Year to you. And
Shania Twain.
Indeed, or Shana Tova, as it says.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. There you go. Close enough, though.
Anyway. Somebody said that to me on Saturday. It's still making me laugh.
I can only imagine who it was. Anyway, right. Much appreciated for all your comments. Comments say, my goodness me, there's a litany of comments. My goodness me. Thank you very much indeed. It's been brilliant. And thank you very much again to Jamie DREYFUS. Wow.
I'll see you Wednesday, 12 noon.
Bye.